All right. Crucial Clarity Act update for XRP, XLM, and HBAR holders in the United States. Now here's the question. What happens when Washington suddenly shifts from talking to acting? Imagine you are standing at the edge of a massive legal frontier. For years, holding digital assets in the United States has felt like navigating a ship through a permanent storm without a compass. Regulators have given mixed signals, enforcement actions have created chaos, and the average participant has been left guessing. But right now, as we hit early July 2026, something unprecedented is happening behind the scenes in Washington, D.C. The endless debate over digital asset rules is completely shifting gears. We are no longer dealing with vague promises or distant timelines. Instead, a sense of intense urgency has gripped the highest levels of American government. Senior political leaders from both sides of the aisle, alongside White House officials, are suddenly coordinating their calendars. They are pushing for a monumental shift that directly targets the foundation of assets like XRP, XLM, and HBAR. So let's dive straight into what analyst X Finance Bull right here just uncovered on X and look at exactly why this month is set to become an absolute turning point. So let's start with our very first question about why is congressional leadership suddenly fast-tracking the crypto market structure bill? At the absolute center of this developing situation is Senator Tim Scott. He has publicly and firmly aligned himself with Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Both leaders are making it known that the Senate needs to put crypto market structure legislation up for a formal vote during this exact month of July. Scott explicitly pointed out that a bipartisan proposal is on the table. One designed to establish undeniable rules of the road for the digital asset industry, secure consumer protection, and keep technological innovation firmly planted inside American borders. Punchbowl News has even confirmed that Thune is managing the legislative clock deliberately. He is allowing temporary room for negotiations so all parties can finalize the latest draft of what is widely known as the Clarity Act. Now, here's my opinion. I see this sudden legislative alignment as a massive structural wake-up call. This isn't just standard political grandstanding. When you see key figures willing to adjust calendars and cross party lines, it means the pressure from the traditional financial sector has reached a boiling point. They want to interact with networks like the XRP Ledger and Stellar, but they demand a firm federal law before they deploy their capital. So my view is that congressional leaders realize they are running out of time before the legislative window shuts down entirely, and they don't want America left behind. Now, how do the recent statements from the White House change the regulatory landscape? The momentum doesn't stop with the Senate. Analyst X Finance Bull also highlighted striking comments from White House official Patrick Witt. Right? Patrick Witt. Witt openly described this period as quiet month. directly linking the current policy push to the United States' historic role in global financial leadership as the nation approaches its 250th anniversary celebrations. When a White House administration drops statements that perfectly mirror the timeline and urgency of the Senate leadership, it signals an uncommon level of executive and legislative harmony. This joint focus greatly amplifies the expectation that a formal vote is not a matter of if, but when. Now, here's my opinion. In my experience tracking these markets, a unified message between the Capitol and the White House is incredibly rare in the digital asset space. So to me, this implies that the underlying utility of cross-border settlement tokens and tokenized real-world assets is finally being recognized as a matter of national economic strategy. Washington is realizing that assets like XLM, HBAR, and XRP aren't just speculative instruments. They are foundational protocols for the future of global finance. If the US wants to maintain its status as the financial capital of the world, it needs this framework passed immediately. Now, our next question is, what does this urgent political alignment mean for holders of XRP, XLM, and HBAR? The Clarity Act isn't just a general tech bill. It is a structural overhaul that directly alters the operational rules for utility-focused networks. For a long time, these specific assets have been weighed down by the lack of definitive token taxonomy. By moving toward a confirmed market structure, the law seeks to draw a permanent line between purely speculative tokens and digital assets designed for institutional settlement and infrastructure. Now, here's my opinion. My opinion is that this legislative acts as a giant sorting mechanism. For years, top-tier utility networks have been lumped into the same volatile bucket as meme coins and experimental projects. The moment the Clarity Act establishes a clear legal framework, that force relationship breaks down completely. True utility asset will finally be allowed to function based on their actual adoption metrics and network volume rather than political uncertainty. This is exactly what institutional participants have been waiting for before fully integrating these protocols into global supply chains and payment corridors. Now, will Senate leadership officially place the bill on the active calendar before July passes? With the political willingness now completely visible, the final crucial question remains, will the Senate leadership actually seal the deal and place the bill on the active legislative calendar before the month gets away from them? As analyst X Finance Bull concluded, the intent is clear. The drafts are being refined and the key policymakers are aligned. Now it all comes down to procedural execution and floor management. Now, my take on this final hurdle is simple. The hardest part of the battle, which was getting partisan leaders and the executive branch to agree on a tight timeline, is already behind us. While there is always a tactical risk of procedural delays in Washington, the sheer amount of public reputational capital these politicians have to put into a July resolution makes a total retreat highly unlikely. The stage is completely set. We are watching a deliberate, calculated transition from an era of chaos to an era of absolute structural clarity. Now, here's our overall conclusion. The digital asset landscape in the United States is undergoing a profound evolution. The public push by Senator Tim Scott, the floor management by John Thune, and the strategic statements from the White House confirm that the Clarity Act is no longer just a distant policy concept. So for market observers and participants alike, this month represents a critical juncture where legal reality is finally catching up to technological innovation. If Washington successfully capitalizes on this uncommon political alignment, the long-standing barriers inhibiting the mainstream adoption of utility networks will permanently dissolve, altering the trajectory of the entire financial ecosystem. Alright, and this finally ends our video. Thank you very much for watching and see you on the next one. Or you might just as well check this next recommended video right here.